Hey everybody, this is TJR, and if this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. If not, welcome back. And roughly about 2 weeks ago, Superfan and I posted a video. It was an April Fool's video. It was a joke for April Fool's Day, where we talked about how all the different sons of the Beatles, Sean Ono Lennon, James McCartney, Zach Starkey, and Donnie Harrison, were going to form a new group called the Sons of Beatles, or the SOBs. And again, this was an April Fool's joke. And the video did very well. It got a very good response. Most people understood the sense of fun that it was intended for it. But now, roughly about 2 weeks later, this weekend, on Friday, Superfan sends me a text message and tells me that, as it turns out, and this is for real, this is not a joke, James McCartney and Sean Ono Lennon have written a song together that has just been released. Now, I want to make it clear, this track is a James McCartney track, and it's an advanced single, at least it appears to be an advanced single for an upcoming release, I'm guessing. The song is called Primrose Hill. Sean Ono Lennon is only credited as a co-writer. He does not perform on this track. He does not sing on the track. He doesn't play any instruments. He's just credited as a co-writer. So it's not like they're performing together. It's just a song that they've co-written together that's being released as a James McCartney track. Now, I looked up the song because I, of course, had to listen to it and had to see what I thought. But I noticed that also appearing on the track is Paul McCartney himself playing guitar on the track. James McCartney also plays guitar on the track. And Paul McCartney is credited as playing harmonium on this track. And that was a surprise. That wasn't even mentioned in the article that was forwarded to me from American Songwriter. In addition, the track also features keyboards by David Kahn or Kane, hopefully I've said it correctly, I don't know, who serves as producer. And drums are by Sean Payton, and more on him in a moment. So naturally, of course, the timing of this, for me, was quite surprising that this should happen for real. But I listened to the track. I just thought, well, let's listen to it and just see what we think here. And I don't know how many of you have heard about it. I did a little bit of internet searching. There are articles about this in a couple of publications, but no one's really talking about it on YouTube as far as I can see. So I thought I would give this track a listen. I found the track Primrose Hill to be a very pleasant track with a very haunting and very melancholy feel to it. There are some Beatlesque qualities to the track, and of course, how could there not be? But as I listened to it, I couldn't help but feel that it was somehow missing a little bit of secret sauce to it, because I think it's a good track, but I found it at times frustrating because I felt like there's all this potential for it to be stronger, for it to be more emotional. And I think some of it comes from not how the drums were performed, but for how they were produced and how they were recorded. It feels to me like the drums are a bit too placid throughout the whole track. Superfan listened to it with me, and she said the track felt very lo-fi chill. And I don't know if any of you have ever listened to Lo-Fi Chill Beats or the Lo-Fi Chill Beats channel on YouTube. I have been thinking I want to do a video about that at some point. But if you have, you know what I'm talking about. Music that is very pleasant to listen to, that puts you in a kind of a deep focus state, but is not particularly strong emotionally one way or the other. And that's kind of what I feel. I don't know if that's what he was going for. If he was going for a lo-fi chill vibe, then it works, mission accomplished. But otherwise, I felt like as just a song, it could have been emotionally stronger if there was more dynamic range to the drums, if the drums had some build to them, where they start at one spot, reach kind of a crescendo, maybe come back down again. It just felt more like on the production end that the drums were just recorded in just too placid of a performance. And I don't think there's anything wrong with how the drummer played. I think it's more on a production end. And I think that's probably maybe the track's biggest weakness, or where it could have been improved the most. By way of comparison, when Robert and I talked about Now and Then, we both agreed that we really liked the song, but that we both felt like it felt more like a John Lennon track, solo track, with some of the Beatles performing on it than it did a Beatles track. But with that said, that track has a strong emotional resonance to it. This track, it just feels like it just doesn't quite achieve that. And it's frustrating again, because it feels like it's so close to achieving it. With just a little bit of extra work, I think it could have gotten there. And so I'm kind of surprised by that, and I'm kind of frustrated by that. But it is still a very pleasing track to listen to. So with that said, I'd love to just ask if you've checked this one out, if you've listened to it. If not, go give it a listen. And let's talk about it here in the comments. I'll be honest, I'm really not that familiar with James McCartney's solo work. There was an episode of Music Worth Buying, the old series that Robert and I used to do, where we talked about, recordings released by the sons of the various Beatles. And we talked about different recordings. He talked a great deal about James McCartney because he was more familiar with his work. I talked about Sean Lennon, who I really liked his first two albums. And I kind of wanted to mention that here, because when I read the comments to the April Fool's video, the Sons of Beatles video, a lot of people were put out that I said Sean Lennon versus Julian Lennon, and they got kind of like angry with me, saying, Julian's way better. He sounds more like his father. He should be in this. And I'm like, you guys, don't you realize this is, first of all, this is an April Fool's joke, number one. This is not serious. But I thought to myself, have they listened to Sean Lennon? And, when I talked about these two solo albums back when we made that video, and at the time, this was all that he had available, I said, Sean Lennon doesn't sound like his father very much, but at the same time, he sounds a lot like his father. And he kind of has forged his own musical path. And in that respect, he is very much his father's son. I'll be honest, I haven't listened to anything after these two albums, and I feel embarrassed to say that here, because before I made this video, I thought, what has he released since? And I found out he has released a couple things. I should listen to them. And I'm going to put those on my up next list to do that and check them out on Tidal. But these two albums I've heard, and I think they're really, really good. But don't expect them to sound like Beatles. Don't expect it to sound like his dad. You will hear shades of that in here. And I guess the same is true for James McCartney. What little I have heard, he doesn't sound like his dad, but he does. And I think it's good that, they're forging their own musical paths. In fact, again, Danny Harrison, I've heard some of his stuff where he's collaborating with other musicians. I've heard some of his solo stuff. And again, he's definitely trying to forge his own path. And I think this is good. I don't think they should try to form a supergroup where they try to sound like their fathers. And that's why I thought that would be a funny April Fool's Day video. Anyways, I probably ranted on a bit here. I am working on some more in-depth videos right now that are not quite ready to release. There's one on the Rolling Stones, a song that I feel is one of the most un-Rolling Stones songs ever, but I think it's a great song, and I'm going to be breaking it down and talking about it. I am working on a Weekend Spin, where I'll be talking about an album that I did mention in the forum pages of the channel here, if you haven't seen that one. An album that almost became a Crosby, Stills and Nash Young reunion. And at the same time, I'm also working on a video about Led Zeppelin and their performance at Live Aid. And a long time ago, after I finished my Sgt. Pepper in-depth analysis video, I began to take notes on the White Album. And then they got set aside. I'm not sure why, but they did. And I've come back to those notes recently, and I'm starting to put them back together. No real promises as to how soon this will be, but I may do an in-depth analysis video of the White Album similar to the Sgt. Pepper one that I did, though that video was over an hour long. Anyways, though, that's some of the stuff that's in the works. And stay tuned. Thank you all for your support. I really do appreciate it. Even the negative comments are appreciated. Thank you also, patron supporters. Patron supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos not available on this channel. And mostly, thank you so much for letting me spend some time with you. We'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.